This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 468. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and I am joined by my good buddy Adam Emmert as we are starting our Know Your Rivals off-season series. It's an annual tradition, buddy.
It's an annual tradition. It's the annual time to talk catfish about our division rivals, and instead of just talking a bunch of mess the entire episode, like actually, went back and kind of looked at some stuff to see what confirms some of my notions about this Cardinals team and things that maybe buck some of those notions. And I kind of think that this team might be a little more interesting than I originally thought going into this season. Brandon, can we go on a limb and call him maybe Plucky? Like, I don't know.
That might be the best thing that we've had to say about the Arizona Cardinals in quite some time, actually. And now that you're mentioning it, is it starting off with the Cardinals? Is it appropriate this year?
That was the thing, is as I was sitting and looking over stuff and all of that, I mean, I hadn't forgotten the Niners placed last in the division because, I mean, that's just joyful and it fills up my heart. Uh-huh. But with that said, I'd kind of forgotten that they had finished last in the division and somehow it wasn't the Cardinals. But no, the Cardinals, a competitive year, but one that followed a familiar pattern that we've seen throughout not just Gannon's tenure, but previous coaches and like Kingsbury and that sort of thing.
There's one thing about the Cardinals that it continues to land them as, because we kind of go about this in order of who we think might be the better of the teams within the division. And every year it just kind of seems like, well, we start out with the Cardinals because they generally are finishing last in the division. And that's just the way it's been, the way that it will likely continue to be. And when you go back and you look at some of the things, because you go back to last season, you say, oh, they did do some good things. And there are some things to worry about. Like they have a really well-coached team. Which is something that we haven't been able to say about the Arizona Cardinals in previous years, as much as, we tear them down as much as we can. But with the coaches, like they're actually better than what we've seen in recent years. They still have the same owner, though. And that's kind of what puts them in like securely in the last place for me.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. So having watched a few different things about the Cardinals here in the last day or two, read a few different articles, one of the things that I'd listened to was our friends Brett and EJ over at the Bootleg podcast. And they were talking about, like Brett specifically, these are the parts, they did these things, this was good, and yet somehow still not good. And he was having he feels like it's kind of their job because they really get down into the weeds of some of the stuff that they can go through and find the nitty gritty, the little thing that maybe you're not seeing that explains the production that you're seeing. And I mean, just scratching his head. And you talk about ownership, Brandon. And that was the first thing that popped into my head is it does trickle down from the top. And we have seen throughout the NFL that ownership really does matter in building the culture. And I do think it's impressive that Jonathan Gannon has done the job that he has done, starting out last year, 2023, 4-13, getting to 8-9 last year and being highly competitive until towards the end of the season. But it does seem like ownership kind of has a stinky cloud that just hovers over this team that they can't quite get away from. And it seems to, even in their competitive years, make it so that they look pretty good for a half, maybe even almost 3/4 of a season, and they just completely unravel. And it feels like that's a part of it. And my other takeaway is it feels like a Kyler Murray thing too.
Yeah. Well, when I look at where the Arizona Cardinals are spending their money as a roster too, because you go down the list and you can kind of see, wide receiver, they're doing pretty good. And a big part of that is that they've really been drafting pretty well at wide receiver. Running back, they're kind of middle of the pack, which when you have a veteran like James Conner, but that makes sense too, because gosh, you want to keep around a guy who is kind of the heart and soul of your offense, because one thing that the Cardinals have shown is that they're really good at running the football. And if you have to pay a little bit more for that, that's just what you do. And yeah, you look through their defense, and there's nowhere where, I guess at safety they're probably toward the top of the league. But that's because you got Budda Baker back there, future Hall of Famer. So we saw that when we had a lot of secondary players, we were probably toward the top of the league too. When you have Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas, you pay those guys. And there's one area of paying the team that you look at and you go, oh, that doesn't match up. And it's at quarterback, when they're in the top 5 of the NFL and paying the quarterback position. And whatever you want to say about Kyler Murray, I don't think there's anybody that's putting Kyler into the top 5 of the NFL.
No, and I think most folks at this point in his career peg him a little south of the Dalton line, just slightly below average. And I think that's probably pretty accurate, because at some point, what is this, year 6 now for Kyler? Year 5? It's got to be somewhere in there.
He was drafted the same year as DK.
Okay.
So going into year 7, I would think.
Yeah, that feels right. And at this point, you kind of are what you are. And I think one of the interesting things about the 25 Cardinals is this is the 3rd year for Jonathan Gannon, which, when you're talking about coaches that come in and make their clean sweep along with their general manager, Austin Fort, 3 years is about what you get if you're kind of ascending. So it's a big prove it year for Gannon and his staff and the front office. And I think this is a massive year for Kyler Murray, because if you see another season where he comes out and plays pretty well early, teams kind of figure out how to contain him, and then suffers a couple small injuries. I'm going to give him a break for blowing out the ACL the 1 year, but suffers some small injuries to the point to where his play declines and it gets real tough on him, and the end of the year doesn't look good again. I think this could be the last year of Kyler as a viable starter, or at least viewed that way around the league. Maybe somebody would take a flyer on him.
You would think that it would be about time to make that transition, because, like you said, 6 years in, and he's had one season where he's had a winning record. And it was in 2021 when they went 9-5. And so did he get hurt that year too, that kept him from finishing that season? I'm trying to think back to 2021. My Cardinals knowledge does not go that far back, but
did they make the playoffs and just get friggin' smoked?
Let's look a little bit deeper into that one. Okay. So the 3 games that he missed were right in the middle of the season. And yes, they beat Seattle for their final game. And then, they got smoked by the Rams 34-11 in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it was an extra embarrassing playoff game. Kyler was like chucking up just lollipops away up in there.
Yeah, he was 19-34. Passer rating of 40.9. Not good.
Not good. And the interesting thing about last year for the Cardinals is, really, if you're looking at this team as a whole, offense wasn't necessarily the problem. They're 12th in points scored. That's pretty darn good. That's damn near top 10. That's just above average. And you mentioned James Conner a little bit earlier. He's a heck of a back. And he ran the hell out of the football last year, and Petzing, their offensive coordinator, was committed to it. And they were very effective with that. And I think that's maybe another one of the big questions going into this year is, with that good run game, in having Trey McBride as your number 1, basically, with Harrison being a rookie and kind of working into it, you would think that with that run game, that would have supported Kyler in a way to where he'd have a more efficient season, but it didn't quite work out that way. And they always seem to kind of stumble at the exact wrong moment. It's situational football stuff. And I just don't see offense as the place that they really needed to spend a lot of time. Now, they got Calais Campbell last year at left tackle, and, as a rookie, he was fine. They did lose Will Hernandez this offseason, which is a guy I was interested in to bring in and kick the tires on, but They've got, other guys are going to replace that with, obviously. And not a lot of big changes on the offensive side of the ball. We'll see if they can kind of continue to be a little more consistent is really what they're looking for here, and probably a step up from Marvin Harrison Jr.
That's one of the questions I had in my mind, too. When I look at their offensive line, like Jonah Williams, I know he's been around for a while. He started out with the Bengals before coming over to the Cardinals. Paris Johnson, a very good left tackle. Like, I would, if I could swap left tackles, that would maybe be a spot where a team that I would actually consider doing that with. I think Paris Johnson's really good. But the rest of their offensive line, is it that much better than what we have? I mean, Evan Brown is still is at left guard for them.
I know. And yet somehow they're effective in the run game and are able to hold up enough to keep Kyler effective for the most part. But really, the offense, it all just comes down to anti-clutchiness. And I think it kind of revolves around last year in particular, Marvin Harrison and him not really finding that chemistry between him and Kyler.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem to work. And now you're seeing the photos of Marvin Harrison this offseason, and he's rocked up by like 20, 25
best
pounds.
Shape of his life, Adam. Marvin Harrison's in the best shape of his life.
Oh my gosh, man. Was it David Boston? Was he the one that really rocked up and was with the Cards and all of a sudden sucked? Like came from the Chargers and then went there? Like if I was a Cards fan, I'd be having like terrible flashbacks of that sort of thing. I don't know that I can recall watching a receiver get just ripped big, like noticeably much larger, and have that be a defining factor in them having more success the next year. That seems to be more of a detriment to receivers over time.
The only one I could think of is maybe T.O.
He was always jacked up.
But he was always kind of big. So, yeah, that might not be a good example.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's not like Harrison went, like he just put on some muscle. Like he was really scrawny last year. So people talk about this amazing transformation. It's like, I don't know, if I were to like actually lift weights for a little bit and it's like, oh, Brandon has some muscle now.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we're making more of this Marvin Harrison being in great shape thing than actually is there.
I just think it's an interesting thing to note. We can kind of go from there.
Like, oh, he decided to lift weights in the offseason. Good for him.
Well, lots of weights. But with that said, last year, the rookie year, underwhelming compared to expectations, because I think people had something in mind from his time at Ohio State that he wasn't able to provide last year. But people talk about him as almost as if he was a bust last year, and he had 885 yards last year. Like that's not busty. But you feel like if this offense is going to take the next step, it's James Conner has to be able to keep up the production at year 30 because he's right there.
Yeah.
Kyler has to be able to stay more relatively healthy throughout the year. Trey McBride has to continue to be Trey McBride because he's excellent. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And Marvin Harrison has to become that dude that you drafted really early in the first round last year. And if that happens, then maybe this offense can take the next step. Just Cardinals history feels unlikely.
It does seem to hinge quite a bit around Marvin Harrison and taking that jump. And I think that's probably why a lot of Arizona Cardinals fans look at it and go, well, I mean, his dad was great. He's a top pick. Look at his time at Ohio State. Like he just needed a year to maybe build some of that chemistry in an off season. Like if I were thinking as an Arizona Cardinals fan, that's kind of where my optimism would lie. Like obviously Marvin Harrison in year 2, he's going to make that jump after having some time with Kyler. And they were just like that close of maybe making so many more connections last year. Maybe if our offensive coordinator would just stop calling fades and run real pass plays instead.
But then again, if you're Drew Petzing, I know I've heard people kill him about some of the play calling, especially on the passing side of things. And I look at him and I go, damn, I bet you if he called up shoddy or, Waldron or anybody that worked with Russell Wilson during his tenure, Bevel, I bet you they'd have a lot to commiserate over in terms of, hey, there's some real limitations, some things that you can't call with this guy that probably hamper you a bit. And I think Kyler, obviously, in his prime, more limited than Russ was in his prime. And I think that makes it tough. Maybe you end up calling a bunch more fades because your guy can't see in the red zone over top of the line, and you can't run a bunch of crossers and pick plays and things like that.
Well, and if you think about it, too, it's not like Kyler is a bad fade throwing quarterback. You think of all of his time with DeAndre Hopkins, where you just roll out, throw a fade to D-Hop, and they had a lot of success in Arizona with that formula. And they're thinking, oh, well, Marvin Harrison Jr., also tall, also caught a lot of those types of passes at Ohio State. Let's just do that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems smart considering when you look at the rest of the wide receiving core, for me, a lot of people are higher on these wide receivers than I have ever been. Michael Wilson to me is a dude. Like, that's fine. He's a replacement level player to me. Zay Jones is nothing to write home about, and they re-signed Greg Dortch. And people talk about him like he's barely a good gadget guy. Like, I don't get it. So outside of McBride and Harrison, the pass catching options to me are best average, if not subpar.
People talk about Greg Dortch like he's Juwan Jennings.
Yes. Yes. I do not get it.
And I don't get it either. No, the receiving core outside of Harrison, it's just, yeah, they have it'd be like,
yeah,
it would be like, I mean, like, we love Jake Bobo, but it's like if we had JSN and then everybody else was Jake Bobo.
Right. Be a little underwhelming. Nothing against Jake. Like, I love that dude. Right. And he has a role and love it. And that's great. But I'm not going to depend on Jake Bobo being wide receiver. Maybe I should
have made my example Brian Walters. And then,
how dare you?
We don't have to tear down anybody who's currently on our team.
How dare? I'm not even tearing down Jake Bobo. I'm loving him up. I'm saying I love him for his role. Like, look, if I had an ounce of athleticism, I can't imagine that my role would be anything more than Jake Bobo's role at best. Like, that's pretty damn good.
And newly engaged Jake Bobo. So we should be congratulating him too, by the way.
Congratulations to the Bobes. All right. Well, obviously his future wife decided she definitely wanted more Bobo in her life and locked that up.
Was she the one who's on Twitter saying, I'm just here so I won't get fined? Or was that, no, that might've been Sam Darnold's wife.
Okay.
It was some Seahawks spouse / fiance.
Solid work. I'm impressed by that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Back to the stupid Arizona Cardinals.
And I mean, kind of offensively, it's kind of where it all boils down for them. I just, did they get better offensively this year?
I see a lot of new names on their offense, but I don't know if they got particularly better because it's all at depth. They bring in Simi Fehoko. They draft Hayden Connor. I know. Who's like a 6th round guard to challenge Evan Brown. They got a ton of UDFAs. Jacoby Brissett. That's not a who guy.
It's not a who guy, but hey, maybe he brings some maturity to that quarterback room and throws the Xbox out,
That could be. That's I guess if you had an area to worry, it would be that Kyler gets a little more maturity now that he's getting into his later years and starts living up to maybe some of that early career potential. And while he still has some of that athleticism, because Kyler, he can still move.
He can still scoot, and maybe he can scoot a little more this year because he was 1 year removed from the ACL last year. This is generally the year where guys, they feel like they can trust it, and it works a little better for them.
The defense on the other hand, for the Arizona Cardinals, Adam. This is where you look at and you at least recognize where they made attempts to get better.
Yeah.
And when I look around the league and I see some of the stories, I'm hearing Arizona Cardinals fans saying, we won the offseason. Then I see Sports Illustrated saying top 5 in most NFL, improved NFL teams. And well, I don't know if those two things quite mean the same thing. Like, if you're one of the most improved NFL teams, maybe you weren't all that good last year to begin with.
Right. And they weren't a dumpster fire last year. They were highly competitive through a lot of their games and finished 8-9, especially early in the year. They played some good teams really tough, and it made you stand up and go, whew, maybe these dudes are legit. I mean, they went 6-4 in their first 10 games last year, and in their losses, played the Bills tough. Were within one score of Detroit, and I got blowed out by Washington and blowed out by Green Bay.
Right.
But otherwise, with some quality wins in there too, like a win over the Chargers and a win over the Dirty Rams in there as well.
But with those wins, are you saying that part of that was on the defense?
I think it's hard to look at this team and not think that defense was the problem when you looked at last year. And they did try to make strides to fix that. And really, for me, as you kind of look through their stats and everything, not great on third down and 21st in time of possession. And so one of those bend but don't break type defenses. In the last two Pete Carroll years, I mean, us Hawks fans kind of suffered through that sort of thing, right? Where the defense was just on the field forever, couldn't get anybody off the field on third down. And sure, maybe they weren't terrible in the red zone, but man, they're gassed by the end of the second quarter because they can't get off the field. And this is what they focused on throughout this offseason, and their biggest signing over the offseason being Josh Sweat from the Eagles to help address some of this stuff.
Right. And Sweat's best years of his career were under Jonathan Gannon and his 2 years at Philly. So it makes a lot of sense on why Gannon would want to go out and sign him. I think we have our questions as to whether or not that Sweat was more of a product of kind of the team around him. If he can be that guy who can come in and then be a leader on that defensive line. They really have no other option considering what they've had on their defensive line in the past. So it does seem like it should be an improvement, but I have my questions there. When I look at their defense, I look at their rushing EPA per play was in the bottom 8 of the league last year. Same with their passing. So they were not a great defense. The other thing that stood out to me when I was looking at them defensively was the number of end of half and late game scoring drives that they are allowed, that the defense allowed, because they were 29th in the league. They allowed 35% end of half and late game scoring drives.
Oh, those are brutal. That's killer. And
especially because they were in a lot of those games.
Kind of going back to how do you explain the why of this team? Like, how did they end up 8-9, missing the playoffs, despite some good things that they did throughout the year in situational football? End of halves, end of games, like that's money time. And that's why the Patriots were the Patriots for a long time.
Well, the thing is you look at their offense ranked 6th in the NFL. So the offense was getting it done late in games and right before the half, but the defense was doing the exact opposite.
Dang. Yeah, that's tough. That's real tough right there. And you talked about Josh Sweat being added and kind of your biggest question being like, is he a product of some of the talent around him? You hit it right on the head. I mean, that's the number one thing for me is, do I know, like, as a fact, that Josh Sweat is a big money guy that you can count on to be edge rushing option number one? I don't know that. He had a lot of dudes around him that sure make life easier. Maybe he is. They also have Brandon Browner out on the edge. That's a player that I like. Former Bronco. I think that Browning.
Baron Browning, not Brandon Browner.
Wow. Too close. Too many BBs. Yeah. Baron Browning. There it is. Thank you for the correction. But from the Broncos, and he had some real flashes when he was in Denver. Didn't really maybe live up to that, being brought in last year. And then if I were a Cards fan, first off, I would question everything about my life and whether I need to reexamine everything. But if I were, bringing back Calais Campbell, that might be my favorite move of the offseason for them. Dude can still play somehow because he's a freaking beast and a real live adult that can come in and help out and try to change the culture of this team.
It's wild to look at when Calais Campbell was drafted, because we just had that question about Kyler Murray and where he was in his career and it being his 7th season. Calais Campbell, was he really drafted in 2008?
Whoa. Wow. 2008. So let me think. That was the year I got divorced. That's 2 lifetimes ago for me.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And that dude is still playing in the NFL. I have to look now. Who else from the 2008 draft is still actually playing?
Calais Campbell. There's your list. There can't be more.
Matt Ryan. Is Matt Ryan still technically in the league? No, he
probably
actually
hasn't retired.
Joe Flacco. Flacco is still in the league.
Okay. That's amazing. All right. Well, good for Calais Campbell.
That was Dwayne Brown's draft class.
It was. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because he seems like a real life good dude. I like that guy.
If he retired in training camp, though, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Red Bryant, who also plays the same position, came out and was drafted that year.
Yeah. He's been out of the league for how many years now, right?
Right.
Unbelievable. We'll see. We'll see if bringing in that sort of beef, bringing in Josh Sweat, and kind of hoping for a collective improvement there up front really helps the run D, because as bad as the pass rush was, the run D was pretty bad as well. And somehow giving up all those yards and looking bad statistically, but being 15th in the league in points allowed.
Yeah. How do they do that?
I don't know.
Like they just suddenly bowed up inside the red zone.
Yeah. I guess they must have kicked a lot of field goals, or the opposing teams.
Yeah. That has to be it.
That has to be it.
But wild that without a pass rush that they were able to be that bad on run defense and still be toward the middle half of the league in points. And again, that's why they have me a little bit worried, especially when I look at some of the other improvements that they've made on defense. Like you mentioned Calais Campbell, but Darius Robinson, he's going into year 2. I know a lot of Cardinals fans are hoping that he makes that year 2 jump on the defensive line. And, he's behind Calais Campbell. LJ Collier is still on the team. Whereas, see, this is the thing that concerns me. When I look at the Arizona Cardinals depth chart compared right now compared to around middle of the season last year, I saw LJ Collier as a starting, he was a starting member of that defense. And now he is a third stringer on the depth chart. And when I see that, that concerns me as a Seahawks fan that has to face the Arizona Cardinals.
Absolutely, because that's got to be better for their deal. That's where LJ's at on the depth chart. It is interesting to talk about Darius Robinson and then also Zaven Collins, 2 first-round picks on the defensive side of the ball as they try to address that. That's Gannon's specialty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, has Zaven Collins really knocked your socks off as a first-round pick?
No.
I'm going to go with no.
No.
And Darius Robinson, did he knock your socks off last year? I forgot he got drafted. To be honest, but where it gets really sketchy for them, I think, is at linebacker as a whole. Kazir White, they lose him, which again, is that a game-changing linebacker? I don't think so.
No,
but he was their best one, and they bring in a rookie from Ohio State and Ojulari, one of their outside linebackers, and then Owen Papoa, whoever that is. He's playing weak side.
Well, it's him. They also got Akeem Davis Gaither from Cincinnati, who I don't know which one of those guys is going to be starting because Akeem Davis Gaither is like not. I think maybe I have recognized him playing special teams before.
Right, and to be fair, I don't know much about Mac Wilson Sr. either, so maybe he'll be the starter. At least he's
been on the team for a couple of years.
That's true, but it does seem like a weak spot on the team because when you compare that to some of the names on the defensive line with drafting Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, that's a guy that a lot of people like. He kind of worries me.
He had some questions too.
Yeah, he feels like he's in that Kim Diche.
Why do the Cardinals always draft dudes on the defensive line who have the questionable character? They have these rumors surrounding them about practice habits and how much they like football. Like how many times
too? Yeah.
How many times as an organization can you draft guys like that? And maybe they just feel like, okay, well, we're bound to hit on one of these guys.
I guess. I mean, different regimes, but yeah, they seem to kind of go back to that well. But the secondary gets interesting because you do have. I
don't know if I'm done talking about the front line yet because we haven't mentioned the signing of Dalvin Tomlinson, Adam. Tomlinson, who was on the Browns last year.
Yeah.
The Browns released him halfway through a 4-year, $57 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he was rewarded by the Arizona Cardinals at the age of 31 with a 2-year, $29 million contract to play nose tackle.
Okay. That's a choice one could make, I suppose. Kind of like paying Kyler Murray, but
he had 3 sacks because we've talked about pass rush being an issue for the Arizona Cardinals. He had 3 sacks in 2023. 2.5 of them were against the Arizona Cardinals.
Is this kind of like a John Schneider situation where he sees a quarterback play well against the Seahawks, like Sam Howell or Sam Darnold, and is like, he must be great now?
The Arizona Cardinals got blown out 27-0 2 years ago, and ever since then, they're like, Tomlinson did that single-handedly. Let's make sure we get him when we have the chance.
I guess, man, you can't make it with Cleveland. I don't know what to tell you. They're starved for talent, and I mean, it's not like they have a bunch of cap space to be wasted with the way that they did the Deshaun Watson deal. So for them to cut him and eat some,
between the Watson deal and then paying Myles Garrett $40 million, like I suppose you had to make some cuts somewhere.
Sure, but damn. All right. Well, I'm sure that'll solve the interior for him.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Dalvin Tomlinson.
Okay. Now moving on to the secondary.
Gotcha. It's where it gets interesting because, I mean, we all know Budda Baker, UW alum, hell of a player, and the heart and soul of the defense. In my opinion, I think he's a great player. I don't see a fall off from him even this year. It's not like he's getting that old. He's a heck of a player.
Jalen Thompson's even pretty good.
Yeah, he's fine. He's all right.
Yeah.
You're not mad that he's your starter, right?
No.
And then, you get to the secondary and that's where, or to the corner position. I think that's where it gets a little more interesting.
It's where it's been interesting, I feel like, for Cardinals fans for years. And so they went out and they did address it by drafting Will Johnson in the second round. And he was a guy that I was I had him on my radar for the Seahawks, especially being a former Michigan corner. There were questions again around him with injury and his knees and with a cornerback. When I see him fall as far as he did and the Seahawks pass up on him twice, essentially, I'm like, okay, that's probably a good move then that we didn't go out and get Will Johnson. I'm as a Seahawks fan, I'm not mad.
I'm not mad either because the questions about his knee and the speed stuff, he didn't run the 40 stuff. And a lot of people questioning whether or not he has NFL speed. He definitely has NFL skills, but does he have enough as far as a special athlete to be able to perform out there. And then right now it looks like they've got Max Melton, a second-round pick for them at right
last
corner.
year, yeah.
Yeah.
And Garrett Williams. So they've addressed the corner spot for the last 3 years in the second and third round. Garrett Williams, probably the best of the three.
Yeah. Again, and this is kind of where you get to when you start talking about the Cardinals and can they make that leap this next year? You have a bunch of guys like, okay, that guy's solid enough, I suppose. Like, can they be more than the sum of their parts? Or, be the, how does that phrase go?
The sum is more
greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah. All right. It just didn't feel right when I said it. But I don't know. In this division, I have a hard time seeing them having the breakthrough year that they're going to need, I think, to secure Jonathan Gannon's spot, to secure Kyler Murray's spot on this team, and to feel like that this team is heading in the right direction.
If I'm the Cardinals general manager, I think I look at it this way. I went out and I got Calais, I got Dalvin Tomlinson, we drafted Walter Nolan, we signed Josh Sweat. Like, the pass rush should be there based on all the work that I've done on player acquisition this past year. Darius Robinson, drafted him 2 years ago. Maybe we can get something out of Zaven Collins finally as a first round pick. Like, all of these things together should make it then easier on the cornerback group as a whole because we are getting to the quarterback faster.
It certainly doesn't hurt. And it's something we've talked about forever on this show, pass rush or great secondary, chicken and egg kind of thing. You need the pass rush.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, I don't care how good your corners are, they're going to get torched. You can't hold up for more than 2.5 seconds as a corner continually. It's just tough.
So as a Cardinals fan, would you feel comfortable? And maybe Cardinals fans are super optimistic with the drafting of Nolan, with bringing in Josh Sweat and expecting that same type of production from Philly to carry over. If you think that those two things can happen, and then, yes, you see Calais Campbell and Tomlinson and say, well, we should be solid up the middle against the run at the very least with those guys on the team. I feel like that's what you're banking on.
It's what you're banking on, because if they can get a similar performance out of the offense, if the defense can just be a little better at getting off the field, even out that time of possession, then maybe you can go from 8 wins to 10 wins and you're sniffing around the playoffs. Maybe you can, but you're going to have to bank on a few things. One, last year they had the Niners get hurt and it all just blow up. So you're going to have to bank on this year, the Niners, with all of the attrition they suffered throughout the offseason and all the losses, despite their draft, like they aren't going to rebound the way that maybe a lot of people think that they will. And then you're looking at the Rams, and I don't necessarily see them taking a step back. I think they're going to be highly competitive again this year. And then you look over at the Seahawks, and you're hoping that the QB gamble doesn't pay off and they whiff again on another offensive coordinator, and somehow you can sneak above the Hawks. The Niners just can't get past all that attrition, and the Rams are the Rams, and maybe you make it as a wild card. Like that would have to be your hope. And I don't know that they got quantifiably better enough for that to be the case. Like, it just doesn't feel right.
Well, let's take a look at how they start the season and just the first 7 weeks going into the bye. They start off on the road at the New Orleans Saints. Then they have the Carolina Panthers at home, and then they go to San Francisco. So, and then they have Seattle at home. So that's their September, is the Saints, Panthers, Niners, Seahawks. Can they go 3-1 against that schedule?
All depends on what version of the 49ers we're getting this year.
So that's going to be a big test for them early on, is that road game in San Francisco. And I guess that'll be the measuring stick, because Saints, Panthers, yeah, they could start off the season 2-0 against those two teams.
Unless you listen to Clinton on our show, and the Panthers are going to be a juggernaut with MVP Bryce Young.
They finished so strong last year.
Fantastic games last year.
Clinton taking strays. There you go.
I know. I love Clinton. That's why I love giving him crap.
October, though, they have the Tennessee Titans, which you don't know how well they're going to do out of the gate with Cam Ward behind center. And then the Indianapolis Colts, who have their own questions. They go on the road for that Colts game, and then they play the Packers, which I feel like that should be a win for the Packers. But yeah, so when I look at that, they could have a positive record going into the bye week.
And that's kind of the least important part of their schedule, right? And it not packed full of world beaters.
No.
But what's important is the back half of their schedule, because you can set your watch to it, boys and girls. The Cardinals implosion towards the end of each and every season.
Oh, and it lines up for it this year too, because skip some of the middle stuff. Just looking at the last 6 teams that they face in their 2025 schedule: on the road against the Bucks, a playoff team.
Ouch. At
home against the Rams, a playoff team. On the road against the Texans, a playoff team. The Atlanta Falcons, they get to play at home. Were they nearly a playoff team?
They were nearly a playoff team somehow in that craptastic division. The Cards could win the NFC South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the final 2 games: on the road against the Bengals, on the road against the Rams.
Damn, that's murderer's row.
It is a murderer's row schedule to finish off the year. And for a team that has historically had this aura of folding in late game moments.
Dang. I actually like Jonathan Gannon in terms of his coaching style and what he's been able to accomplish there, and just his overall demeanor, and seems like a stand-up dude and all of that. How tough is it on him? Like, the idea that they're going to have that back half of that schedule and him trying to buck this trend, because if it goes as it has always gone for them, that is not a good look at all.
It could mean the final year for Kyler Murray. But if he's able to survive that, if Kyler can get his second winning season of his career with that back end of the schedule, then we might hear some people talking differently about Kyler.
It's interesting because I think we all suffer from recency bias, like, way too heavily. A guy has one good year and it's the outlier from all his others, like, not so good or just mediocre years. And we're like, oh, turn the corner, he's great. Boy, that would just be one data point if he was able to do it this year. I guess there'd be 2 because he had the other winning season.
Right.
2 out of 6 where you're like, that's not very good odds. Like, I'm not sure that I'm able to say Kyler has turned the corner now at this point. Maybe he does, but I think it's much more likely that he doesn't, which I think is the more fascinating conversation. If he doesn't, Brandon, what does Kyler Murray's future in the NFL look like?
Well, the Giants might have an opening next year.
All depends on how you feel about Jackson Dart at the end of the day. And I'm personally not a Jackson Dart guy. Obviously, the Giants were.
Or Matt Stafford retires. He goes to the Rams, resurrects his career with Sean McVay.
Never will happen. McVay wants no part of Kyler Murray. He's seen enough of that show live and in person to know better. I think, for me personally, I think if it goes as it's historically gone on the back half of the season here for the Cards, I think he gets Russell Wilson. Like, I think they pull a Denver Broncos here and just eat it, whatever's left on that contract, and wash their hands and move forward. And maybe they keep the GM, but bring in a different coach or whatever. But I mean, at that point, is he the Pittsburgh Steelers' next starting quarterback as they kick the can down the road one more year after that? It'd have to be something like that. Or like the Dolphins finally move off Tua. They're like, well, we'll bring in Kyler. That
might actually be the place, would be Miami. And that would work out well for him, because at least he'd be in he'd have some nice weather.
Another warm weather situation for him.
It does feel, though, when you look at the schedule, it almost makes me like, I would be, as a Cardinals fan, if I saw that as my team schedule, I would kind of be pissed, and I would be, the expectation would be there. Yeah,
I think what you'd have to do if you're a Cardinals fan is First, burn down your house, sell everything you own, change everything about your life again. We talked about that. But
make sure you get the insurance money, though, because you're going to need that for your new life on the run as part of your insurance fraud.
Yeah, Google good arson. Like, make sure you follow the steps, right? But after that, I think you'd have to look at that back half of the schedule and think to yourself, you'd have to change your mentality about it. You'd have to go full Pete Carroll on it. Look at this championship opportunity in front of us. This will change the narrative. This is the year. We're going to go in there and it's all going to be different, because otherwise you're just going to be filled with dread. After.
You are. But then after you get beat down, then I guess as a Cardinals fan, you're used to it. You're just like, that's the approach that you have to take. You're like, I've been through this before, but this year's going to be different.
Yeah. And then when it doesn't happen, go join Aaron Rodgers on his next darkness streak.
You make sure you look like it's an electrical fire. That's just
sparky. No accelerants. That's the key. But I think after the back half of this next year, Brandon, I don't see the Cardinals as a playoff team. Do you? Like, where would you put it?
I think at best they're 8-9.
It feels like that. Tough division. I don't think they did enough to get markedly better in comparison to their rivals and peers. And I mean, we're talking about burning it down. I think they end up burning it down at the end of this year. And man, just embracing the suck one more time.
What you can count on is the terrible owner of the Arizona Cardinals overreacting and probably tearing this down with the coaching staff too. And then as Seahawks fans, we can be happy because once again, they're rebuilding and maybe they're getting rid of their good coaches this time, because that is why one concern as a fan is that they have something going with, at least with the coaching staff. Like they have some competency at GM and the coaching staff, and they're trying to overcome all these past mistakes, and they're just doing the best that they can with what they have so far. And until they get out from under Kyler's contract somehow, I don't think that they can get to really where they need to be as a team.
I don't think you can say it any better than that. That really does kind of put a bow on it. And yeah, I would be. Here's the interesting thing. If they fired Gannon at the end of this year as a Seahawks fan, I'd be excited about that. Whereas when they fired Kingsbury, that bummed me out.
I know. Because you're like,
oh, why? I love Cliff.
I did. Yeah. I look back on so many years and you could just count on 2 wins against the Cardinals. And I want that to continue.
Yeah. Well, with the defense that we are going to get to enjoy this year, Brandon.
Yeah.
I think you could probably count on 2 wins when you play the Arizona Cardinals. I can't wait.
I think so too. Let's get to the second half of the show.
All right.
Into the second half of the show, Adam, and one of the fun things that we got to do ahead of this episode is we got to do some quarterback rankings. We made a list of our own this offseason.
We did, and I thought the parameters around it were kind of fun, just to kind of, give some urgency to our selections in terms of, look, if it was the last season on Earth, who you got if everybody's available? And again, taking into account their current salaries too. It was a fun exercise, and I threw it out to you and Clinton, and I was like, oh, they're not gonna like this. And then you're both like, yeah, that's cool. I was like, are you sure? We don't have to do it. And you're both like, yeah, let's do it. So we did. And it ended up being a good time. I was moderately surprised.
Look, whenever Adam says he has an idea, we have to cherish that and entertain it and go forward with it. And I think it actually worked out this time.
No, we don't have to. I don't need to be coddled. Yeah, if it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea. That's fine.
I have one regret from our show, and it was brought up in our Discord. I let it go after we finished and thought that maybe nobody would notice, but then someone in our Discord noticed, and it made me feel bad. I think I should have resurrected Tom Brady and brought him back for one final year versus some of those other quarterbacks, maybe toward the bottom.
I probably would do it.
Like you're taking your chances over old man Tom Brady over Kyler Murray. Yeah, for 1 year, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd sign up for one more old man Tom year over top of whatever it is Kyler does now.
So that was my regret.
Okay. My regret was, and we addressed it during the show. Oh, yeah, it was taking Caleb before Drake May.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a mistake by me.
After we debriefed, everybody really liked my CJ Stroud pick. And so I felt like coming out of that competition that we all had together that I won.
Yes, you did. You crushed us all. Hail to the victor. You're amazing, Brandon. You are the best snake draft apocalypse QB drafter of all time.
Make a trophy. I'm putting it up on my mantle. I won the offseason, much like the Arizona Cardinals.
You did. It was interesting, though. Where did we finally come in with Sam? Was it 17?
I was the Seahawks fan who picked him. I want to say it was 17. And it was interesting after I thought about that, too. We all felt, I think, okay with Sam being where he was.
Yeah.
He wasn't that far beyond Geno.
No. Here's the thing, is that when I did my list in not really thinking too much about salaries, I had Darnold around 19th. So coming in at 17th, yeah, probably about 17, 18. Sure. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. You were just the one who picked Brock Purdy ahead of him, but that's fine.
I mean, I have eyeballs.
I know, but do you have taste in your mouth? Because I've been told that you do by you in the past, that's the only place that you have taste. And yet,
true.
That still happened.
Yeah, it still happened. But while I may only have taste in my mouth and no taste when it comes to anything else objective like that, when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks, for the most part, I'm okay.
Yeah,
I do okay.
Right at it.
Yeah.
If you were, because I know Flocktimus, one of our longtime producers, he was a little bit, dismayed, I think, by the discussion and just where we had, again, Sam Darnold not that far from Geno Smith. Like we're kind of just in a similar situation. I don't know if you look at it all that much more optimistically. The things that we're most optimistic about as Seahawks fans are our defense and like the potential of having an offense that features the running game.
Right. And look, I think that there's a legitimate drop off between Geno and Darnold. Like, I mean, if you were to take it from 1, 2, 3, 4 and put it into tiers, I put Geno in a different tier than I do Darnold at this point.
That's fine.
Look,
that's what you want to divide your tiers. It's fine.
Yeah, it is. I just think that there's reason for optimism and hope, and that's great. And I want everybody to have that if you have it regarding Sam. And that's cool. But for me personally, I think as a franchise for this next year, we'd be 20% better offensively with Geno Smith than Sam Darnold.
That seems high.
It doesn't. Actually, I took about 15% off the top.
It seems
Geno's really freaking good. And Sam was pretty good for some of a year.
I think what I've discovered this offseason is like I have 3 years of quarterback hopes within my system because toward the end of last year, that hope was really running dry.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you were finding that your hope was running dry regarding Geno and not running dry in terms of offensive line and scheme? Because for me, it's just like, God, if we could just put this dude in an actual NFL scheme with actual NFL blockers, like, we'll see. That gets real spicy.
That was one thing that came out this past week. Was Pro Football Focus's list of offensive line rankings. And they had Seattle at number 30, which is, I think, where we finished the season. And I don't think it's all that unfair for PFF to go ahead and continue to rank us in that spot when, as they rightly pointed out, really all that we did to address the offensive line was draft a small school guard to help fill in.
A good one. But we hope, we think. Likely is, yeah.
For asking him to fill in for what Laken Tomlinson did last year it's not like I would expect us to get worse, but for them to question where we really improved our situation, I get it.
I get it, and I don't want to go back. I mean, I've already just hit the Darnold drum again in terms of quarterback in his play. Like, I don't want to go back and hit the drum again of Schneider not taking enough bites at the apple this offseason to fix the worst need on the team and then downgrade at quarterback. I don't understand. But whatever. Like, this is where we are. And I've been talking
again. We can beat the drum then of the idea is that they went out and they got a real NFL offensive coordinator who can run the ball, and that at the very least should help the offensive line. So while I don't have any animosity toward PFF, like, they're going to take into account that we changed out our offensive coordinator and that should help, because but that fact alone, that having an offensive coordinator that will run the football, that should help those players who are playing offensive line.
They didn't give him a 10-spot Benton boost because we've got Benton coaching the offensive line now.
Like, we're going to have to earn that boost, and that's where I feel about it.
You know, it's funny because I think this is probably why, like, most fans that are frustrated with me with my Darnold take is it comes from the same place that PFF is, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're like, okay, yeah, I mean, you did some stuff, and it probably will be better. We hope that for sure, but show me in, you know, with Darnold, like with Gino, for example, his first year,
you had to be shown,
right? Even after the end of year one, I was like, that was cool, encouraging, but I got to see it again. Like, let's see. Mm-hmm. And after year two, I'm like, okay. And then watching what he was able to do year three in probably the worst quarterback position that he could be in all of football last year, I was like, yeah, okay, this is what he is. Like, he's a damn good quarterback. I'm sorry, just say if Darnold comes out and is real nice again this year in a different system, not in the Goldilocks zone, all that stuff, sure, I will definitely change my tune. I see the data. Like, that's it.
Yeah, the data, but yes.
No, data. Data's a person on Star Trek.
This is why I try and drill this through you. The reason why he's called Data is because that's how you pronounce the word.
No.
I know you want to differentiate. That's fine. This is never going to happen.
How do you say the state that the city of Las Vegas resides in?
Well, it's not Nevada.
It's Nevada.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not Nevada. Dada.
How does he say it?
He says it the right way. Yeah.
What about Denver?
So this is an ongoing dispute between me and Brittany, and she is chiming in from the side here. So it's Nevada, not Nevada. How about the
Colorado.
state in which? There it is. Okay, good. All right. So you're smart because you know how to say words.
Washington. There's no R in Washington.
No, there is no R in Washington. It's not a pirate state. Yeah.
My grandpa would always say Washington.
Yeah. And did he say oranges?
No.
Oh, interesting.
Welcome to the pronunciation show. This is the off season.
This is the off season, folks. So if this sort of thing interests you, get in the flock and be a part of our amazing community of people.
GetInTheFlock.com. You can help support the show. We are thanking our $12 members and above at the end of the show. But we first are thanking our executive producers that we thank each and every show, starting with DCH. That's Doug Chancel Harry. Ryan Peterson, our live YouTube executive producer, and JC Schilling in the 313.
Oh, amazing, folks. Big shout out to you guys and helping us keep going here through the tough off season.
One of the things that makes the off season less tough is being in our Discord group, and $3 and above, that kind of support gets you into that group. It's like if you've never done Discord, we bring it up frequently. If you're new to the idea, it's just a chat room. It's a place where you can go and chat with other people who also listen to the show. It's very specialized, and there's even other chat rooms within that chat room if you want to talk specifically about things that maybe aren't Seahawks. We've got lots of stuff in there. We don't have a politics channel, which is glorious because I don't need that in my life.
No, nobody wants to know about my very wishy-washy, middle-of-the-road politics. No, nobody cares.
No.
5 and above. I am actually mailing out patches now, so that 5 and above gets you some stickers, gets you a little flocker patch. 12 and above gets you into our Ring of Honor Facebook group. It also gets you a shout out monthly when we do our monthly shout out episodes. And yes, 90 and above gets you credit as executive producer. And yeah, we've got some folks to thank this week, Adam.
Absolutely.
We've got Eric Berglund in at 40 SEK. I want to say that's Swedish dollars.
That feels right. Yeah. It all spends. I appreciate the SEK, man.
Swedish krona. See, I nailed it. Welcome to the flock to Eric.
Gosh, how worldly are you, Brandon? That was very good by you.
I know my currencies.
Yeah.
We've got Jake Westrup in at $3, and Jake says, "Hi, I've been listening to the show for about 3 years, which puts me outside my freeloader grace period. I have thought about joining the flock a few times to show support and no longer feel the Game of Thrones style shame, but hadn't pulled the trigger yet. Today, however, I happen to be passing through Smelterville after biking the Hiawatha Trail and realized this was my chance to check out Guaranteed Barbecue. Unfortunately, when I pulled them up, I realized they had just closed, but called just in case, and Garen pulled through. He made sure the whole family got their fill of his delicious food and couldn't have been more hospitable. We will absolutely make a point to stop by any time we're in the area, and talking with him about the podcast was the last push I needed to join the flock. I have been a Seahawks fan my entire life through a lot of ups and downs, and I love this podcast for calling things as they are and celebrating the good things, but pointing out the areas that need to improve. You all do a great job, and I always look forward to each new show. Go Hawks, from Jake."
Hey, go Hawks, Jake. That is awesome. That's a really cool story, and I am not shocked by any stretch of the imagination that Garen pulled through there. But there's nothing that tickles me more, Brandon, than when little flockers get together on their own somehow outside of the show. This is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It blows my mind.
It's one of the aspects that I never envisioned that would be a part of this, and every time I hear a story about it, I still think it's cool. Like that part about doing the show, that will never get old, is hearing those stories.
Heck yeah, man. So if you haven't done it, get to Smelterville. Check out Garen's new permanent location. It's awesome. It's a great spot. I think it's better than his old spot. And if you can eat that barbecue with a frown, you're dead on the inside.
Let's see. I need to find out. I think I should be going through there on Friday coming up this week, because I'm on my way out to Tacoma. I'm going to be at the Front Row Card Show, setting up a table at the card show there in Tacoma. So, one, I'm going to make a point to stop at Guaranteed Barbecue on my way. And two, if there's any other like trading card nerds that want to look at some of my Seahawks cards that I have for sale, go to the Front Row Card Show in Tacoma this weekend.
So you're setting up a table at the card show?
I'm putting up a table. I figured, you know, we do the Seahawks podcast. It's practically free advertising. A bunch of sports nerds and I put out some stickers and some cards, and I'll say I talk Seahawks like 2 days straight.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time. And I didn't know that you were doing a show. Like that's pretty cool, man. You're setting up your own booth and everything. Should have told me. I'd have made you a sign or something, or I don't know.
You know what? I don't know if I'll have room behind me. It would have been cool to have like the sign that we set up for our live show, but yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of room.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could have done something like, you know, face sized. You know, it doesn't have to be massive.
Oh, you know what? I got the little foamy sign. I'll bring that with me.
Oh, there you go.
I got to put up something behind me. If I have a wall behind me, that's the other thing.
Right. That's true fact. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's in the Tacoma Convention Center, and so it's a.
Oh.
There's probably a good chance.
Is it Tacoma Dome?
No.
Oh.
There's a convention center downtown, and I think it's relatively new-ish.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I want to say like it wasn't there 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time in Tacoma.
No, last time I spent a lot of time in Tacoma was about 20 years ago when I was married to the ex-wife who is from Tacoma. Yeah. And her grandparents live there.
I was there for half of my third grade year.
That's right. Live to tell the tale.
And I live to tell the tale. Which, there's some stories. Tell you that.
I'm sure there are. Yeah. What is it? Is it like E Street or B Street there in Tacoma? That's
K Street?
K Street. That maybe is the one. I don't know.
It was K Street, and it was K Street on an opposite side from where because I think we were on like L Street. So it was real close
like
to
next
K,
door street?
but it was like on the other side of the train tracks, K Street.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
but it's not like I lived in a great part of town either.
I mean, it's Tacoma, so
somehow I still walked to school. I don't know how that worked out.
Different era, man. Different era.
Yeah.
What was that? Third grade? 1988?
Yeah. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
All right. Back to our welcome to the flock. Michael West gave us a raise from $1 to $3. So a big thanks to Michael for giving us a little bit of a raise.
Heck yeah, man. That's a little wind in the sails for the offseason here, inspiring to keep us going here over the next couple of weeks until training camp finally gets here. Glorious, glorious training camp. Hurry up and get here.
A big thanks, too, to people who support us out on YouTube. I know we have YouTube members. It doesn't show up in my email the same way. Usually the best way, if you're joining on YouTube, is to join during one of the live shows and get your shout out that way. We generally shout out the folks that go to getintheflock.com through this show. And we have people that support the show anonymously through, like, I think Apple Music or the Apple Podcasts. You can donate through there. I still want to be sure and thank those people, though.
Heck yeah, man. Because, I mean, this really has turned into a thing that, like, we feel compelled to do, not just because of the money, but because we know how many people enjoy the show and they support us the way they do. And heck, man, it's a little pressure. Like, you can't let them down. Got to do the thing. Yeah.
And we're extending freeloader grace periods for everybody who joined as a free member at getintheflock.com. Joshua Sanders, we got Michael K, we got Cayman, who is a free member, and Eric. So, joining as a free member out there, it gives you an extra year under your belt as a freeloader. It's fine.
That's right. It kicks the can down the road a little bit. We will wave the Magic Seahawkers podcast wand, and you have a magic-free year of freeloading. So
that's the least we can do. Yeah. Yoki Hawk on Discord says, okay, I spent time I did not have to do some cursory research, just trying to identify teams with new offensive coordinators and new quarterbacks in 23 and 24. Here are the results. Because, the Seahawks going into this year, new quarterback, we got a new offensive coordinator. Yoki Hawk wanted to go and see what outcomes we've seen just in recent memory, and says if we flockers think we are a best case scenario, we need to prove it to ourselves and others. And the best case scenarios in the past 2 years were Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels with Washington, obviously going to the NFC Championship game, finishing second in the NFC East with a record of 12-5. And then 2023, the Houston Texans, Bobby Slowick, CJ Stroud, 10-7, first in the AFC South. Then we drop down to the better than expected, and we have the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers with Arthur Smith and a combination of Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. You got...
Was that better than expected?
I feel like having a winning record, finishing second in that division, that's better than expected. They beat the Bengals.
Okay. I'll buy it. Sure.
2023, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Dave Canales and Baker Mayfield. They finished first in their division, going 9-8.
I put them in the next tier above. Like,
best case?
That Baker thing, that worked out. Now, I know it hasn't all been with the Canales, but...
Worked out for him. He got a new job.
True. Well... I mean, did it work out for him with getting that new job? I don't know.
Yeah, when you talk about some of the worst owners in sports. And
yeesh.
All right. Probable outcomes. I don't like how we refer to this as probable. It's like this is the likely outcome for our team. I think the likely outcome is the best case scenario, obviously. But
Okay.
Probable outcomes.
The 23 Indianapolis Colts with Jim Bob Cooter, Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew, 9 and 8 in third place. We got the Atlanta Falcons in 2024 with Zach Robinson and Kirk Cousins. They went 8 and 9. The 23 Jets with Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers going 7 and 10.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I'm noticing as a pattern here is that really Baker was the outlier in terms of when the new OC is paired with a veteran. Hasn't been greatish.
Yeah,
but
Justin
new OC
Fields
paired with good rookie. That's looked nice.
Okay, well, the veterans have been Aaron Rodgers so far. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and Justin Fields / Russell Wilson.
Right. And Baker.
Then the final category, titled, "We hope this does not happen. Yikes."
I like this category. It's great.
There's 5 teams. You got the 24 Chicago Bears with Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams. You got the 23 Cardinals with Drew Petzing and Joshua Dobbs. Does that really count with Josh Dobbs? I don't know. 24.
I don't know. Pasternak did some things.
24 Raiders, Luke Getsy. Well, but I mean, like Kyler played part of that season, right? 23.
Right. Yeah.
24 Raiders with Luke Getsy, Gardner Minshew going 4 and 13. New England Patriots, Alex Van Pelt, Jacoby Brissett going 4 and 13. 23 Carolina Panthers with Thomas Brown and Bryce Young. This is where you look at Sam Darnold in comparison with these named quarterbacks, and I have some optimism.
Okay.
You didn't take any of these. Well, did you take Caleb ahead of Sam Darnold?
Yes.
You may have, yeah. Okay, that was the one. But he was paired with Shane Waldron, so he had a handicap of his own last year.
Absolutely. And see, that's, again, if I'm taking the full body of evidence, Sam Darnold has been closer to Jacoby Brissett than Sam Darnold has been closer to Geno Smith his entire career. That's just where it's at as of now. Can that change? Yes.
For the entirety of his career, you're saying?
Yes. How else do you look at a player?
Jacoby Brissett never had a 14-3 season.
Right. I'm not saying he is Jacoby Brissett. I'm not saying he put on a Jacoby Brissett suit and walks around like skin suit and is Jacoby Brissett. I'm saying he's closer to that in terms of his production. Like journeyman comes in, you know, he can be there, help a rook out.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. Then, you know, being a mid to upper tier starter in the league. That's where it's been. It just has.
Anyway, my takeaway from this list is that, I hope that doesn't happen either. And I feel like better than expected, the most likely landing spot in my mind.
I would say the most likely landing spot to me is a half a tick down from Canales and Baker.
Oh, so you're just going to build your own category between better than expected and probable outcomes.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, don't be confined by those categories.
Yeah, how dare you? How could anybody think I was going to stick to somebody else's categories? Come on.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to give us something to talk about, posting in our Discord is a good way to do it, or you can send us an email, gohawks@seahawkerspodcast.com. On to some do better and better at life.
Yeah, get after it.
My do better this week is for Ben Solak, writer Ben Solak, ESPN. I will give Ben some credit because for a list in list offseason, this was very comprehensive. Ben Solak went and he selected the best player at every draft position in NFL history. And that's a pretty impressive thing to do. It was pretty impressive that 10 of our Seahawks made the list.
Wow.
I was happy to see that, but I thought it should have been at least 11 because I look at draft position number 154 and I see a Hall of Fame linebacker in Zach Thomas with the caveat from Ben Solak that says also selected at pick number 154, Seahawks cornerback Richard Sherman and Eagles running back
Wilbert Montgomery back in 1977. Thomas made the Hall of Fame in 2023 and represents all short kings, so I have to pick him here. But Sherman should make the Hall soon, and there's a legit debate between the two. So, yeah, I don't discount the idea that there's a legit debate to be had, but why don't we actually have it rather than just by default giving it to Zach Thomas because he's shorter and already in the Hall of Fame? Like, no, those are not the two reasons. Let's look at their actual career. Let's break it down, Ben. This is a debate that needs to happen at pick number 154 before we release this list. Do better.
All right. So I think I would probably go, if I gun to my head, I'd probably choose Zach Thomas. I think he had more impactful years than Sherm, would be my guess. It felt like Zach Thomas was good for like a long time.
How many Super Bowls did Zach Thomas win as a member of the Miami Dolphins?
Let me see. Let me count them up here. So he had catfish. None. 0.
Exactly. But he was a 7-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro. Like, dude is no slouch.
He was real good. So was Sherm. Real good. Hall of Fame good.
Yeah. I wonder how many ballots it took Zach to get on into the Hall of Fame.
I don't know. With like so many of these guys, like it's just like if it was more than one, that it was too many somehow.
Again, I'm not discounting it. Even if he broke it down and explained the why.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't happy about him just because Zach was shorter and already in the Hall of Fame.
I guess it's Ben's list. So, I mean, he can do what he wants.
He can do what he wants. I guess we should be thankful as readers of this article and Seahawks fans that he actually had to put a caveat in there under pick number 154. Because I think that was my big takeaway was when I saw who made the list. I was like, how did Sherman not make it being drafted in the 5th round?
Good call.
And then I went to the list and I saw that it was Zach Thomas and most of the other guys there, no explanation. It was just, pick number 153 and, some no-name guy from the Eagles back in the 70s.
So how many caveats were there? Was this a pretty rare event that Sherm got caveated?
I think for later in the draft.
Okay.
Because once you get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, I don't think a lot of explanation needs to be done when you look at the name and it's a name that you don't recognize. You're like, oh, well, good for him.
Yeah, exactly. Like Tom Brady didn't have a lot of competition at his spot.
No. Brock Purdy probably didn't have a lot of competition either.
No. Well, I can understand. You never like to see a Seahawks slighted. Like that always feels wrong.
I got Sherm's back.
Who's got his back?
I've got his back.
Who's got his back?
I've got his back.
There it is. All right, man. I also have your back, Brandon, because my do better speaks near and dear to your heart here. So the title from this article from Fortune magazine, which again, this is a dumb as catfish article. I'm just going to put it out there. This is brain dead stuff.
Well, you could have I think you said it when you said this is from Fortune magazine.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. All right. Headline reads, bosses are right. They should have added boomer in front of that. Boomer bosses are right. Remote workers spend 2.5 fewer hours on the clock than their coworkers in the office. And so they go through a bunch of data.
Thank you.
And
you sound so much more credible when you pronounce the word correctly.
I like my data. All right. Anyways, article gets into it. It says, when they looked at the hours, on a typical average, somebody who's in the office spends 7.79 hours clocked in, Brandon.
Wow.
7.79 hours clocked in. Wow. Unbelievably. While working from home employees only clock 5.14 hours. The outrage that they did not clock in and get paid for more hours. I can't believe it. You go through the entire article. They break it down by the minute. They break it down by all this sort of stuff. All they care about is how long these people are, quote, clocked in. You know what they didn't measure between any of this? What the catfish got done? Here's the thing. These employers, they're bitching because they have to pay their average employee who works at home less to get the same amount of catfish work done. What are we talking about? This is literally just so that they can have control over you, control over your life, and sit from their office and watch you and ask you about your catfish TPS reports. This is the dumbest thing in the world. And they write this article as if to validate all the people who are like, oh, you can't be working from home. We can't have you going and watching some Netflix in between and clock out, but still get the same amount of work done. It's the end of civilization. So stupid. Fortune magazine and Emma Burley, you are dumb and you need to do better.
Yeah, I do feel like the getting the work done, if you can get more work done in less time, does that not speak to productivity?
Does that not speak as an employer to a savings of money? Does it not speak to a savings of money that you now don't have to have office space for that employee? Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about?
Well, I would say that just in my past week, in my personal experience, when I go into the office and the internet speeds work as like, I don't know, early 2000s DSL, and it takes me 5 minutes to download a PDF file that's like maybe 4 megabytes. Like when I have to wait 5 minutes rather than having it instantaneously. If you want to know where some of my workday goes, it's waiting for stuff like that.
Huh. This article should have been titled something completely different. It should have been remote workers save employer money as clock in office workers burn 2.5 hours doing nothing on the employer's dime. That should be the beginning of this article, because to your point, Brandon, like in the infinite wisdom of our American government, they said, you know how you do your job from home and we don't have to like worry about you? We can't have that. I'm going to need you to drive just a little ways across town for like no reason and use our catfish stuff to make you less efficient. Like, we're going to need you to do that so we can see your bright and shining happy face, which I understand. I like seeing your face too. And it's nice in person, but come on.
Yeah. Oh, more social time. It's not always bad, I suppose.
I guess. I don't know. I'm a hermit in the woods, so I don't know how much I agree with that.
You know what? I'm happy to be employed. Let's put it that way.
Well put.
On to Better at Life. And my Better at Life this week is for Mariners catcher Adam. We're talking baseball. Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh, my Better at Life, as he is on an historic pace in hitting the long ball. 36 home runs through Tuesday, July 8th. They faced off against the New York Yankees here on Tuesday. Aaron Judge also just right behind Cal Raleigh with, I think he hit his 34th today. But we've got these two guys on pace. Shoot, I think they're on pace for like a Barry Bonds type season with home runs without the juice. And
are we sure?
I mean, I think I feel like they have tested Cal Raleigh, who I think you would appreciate his nickname if you haven't heard it. It's the Big Dumper, and he is the Mariners catcher, and he's got that name for a reason.
Oh,
he's got a significant backside to him.
Okay, all right.
One other cool thing about him, in addition to leading the major leagues in home runs, he's doing it as a switch hitter, hitting both lefty and righty, and it's pretty impressive. But the cool thing that I saw, because catchers not normally known for hitting a lot of home runs, the record for a catcher is 48. So with 36, only 12 away from breaking the major league home run record by a catcher. Cal Raleigh, our Seattle Mariners catcher, better at life than Skip Bayless.
I'm just curious, do these games like count as official games that they're playing in, since they're like historical reenactments of this old-timey sport? Like, look, even the name Cal Raleigh, was he from 1924? What is this?
It is. It's an old-timey baseball name.
Yeah, exactly. Play, yeah. I did. That's cool. Good for Cal. Hooray, Mariners in a sport that I guess you care about in Clinton. So that's
I do.
Cool.
I've been watching it more this year. I found out that if you're
is this what you do with your extra time at work now that you have to sit and wait on the stupid internet?
Yeah,
waste your time.
Pull up baseball.
Yeah,
I could do that. Nobody's stopping me.
I can't imagine they are. Like, exactly. And good news is that you get to burn 2.5 extra hours a day.
It's about the length of a baseball game.
Oh, no, that's like half a baseball game.
No, they've shortened them down.
They've shortened it down from 10 hours to 5.
They only give the pitchers 15 seconds to throw the ball now. That speeds up the game considerably.
Well, I guess if you're paying reenactment actors, like speeding it up so it's a little less hours, that helps. Yeah, makes sense.
We'll get into baseball one of these days. Who's your better at life?
Zero chance. Zero chance.
I don't care. It's not even a goal of mine.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, my better at life than Skip Bayless. Look, I know that I have said what I said about this player on the field, but I've consistently said I like the dude and I like having him around. And I think when they have big moments in life, it should be celebrated. And my better at life is for quarterback Sam Darnold because, again, good dude. He gets engaged to his longtime girlfriend, Katie Hoofnagel, and in a rare occasion that you won't see often in the world, excited to get rid of their name for Darnold. Like, that's pretty excited about
No, I thought you were going to go the other way with this. We want Sam Darnold to be Darnold Hoofnagel.
Darnold Hoofnagel? Wow.
How amazing would that be on the back of a jersey?
They need to rethink this entire thing. You're right. Like, because that would be a fantastic, that's got to be somebody's pick'em name this year is Darnold Hoofnagel. Like, that's pretty good. Because that's a Hall of Famer in the making, right? Darnold Hoofnagel?
Yeah, you want to put all the previous years of the NFL behind you. You go full on hyphenated name, put it on the back of your jersey, and your future Hall of Famer.
Look, Seattle's a fairly progressive town. Maybe he just ditches the Darnold altogether and just goes full Hoofnagel.
You know what? That might be the way to go.
Do we start a petition? Sam Hoofnagel?
I want it now. I want it.
What if Katie, though, is lovely fiance? What if she's disappointed because she's looking to go to Darnold? Or could they just swap? Maybe they could just swap.
Ooh, I've never seen that before, but I'm for it. I think Katie would be into it because she was, in fact, the one who has in her Instagram profile, I'm here so I won't get fined. So I think she has a fun side to her.
Yeah, she looks like a delightful human. Very cute. They're a cute couple. Their engagement photos. Shout out to the photographer. Looks like maybe Bailey, an original is what the caption here is. I used to do, engagement and wedding photos and all that. And these are well done. They look great. They're glowing and they look super happy. And I'm fired up for Sam, man. What a big moment in his life to, have the person that he wants to marry. They have a really cool thing where they invited everybody over and kind of a surprise. And, they seem just really happy.
You know how
couple.
Sam Darnold's a cool guy is that he took his engagement photos in a white T-shirt
and Chucks. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He's wearing Chucks. I like it. They seem like an amazing couple. Really cool. Awesome to see him happy. Fired up for them. So to Sam Hoofnagel and Katie Darnold, congratulations. You guys are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Man, I cannot wait for week 1 of the NFL season, Adam, when you and I are up in the stands rooting against the stupid San Francisco 49ers in the week 1 home opener, and they introduce the entire offense. They come out onto the field. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba. You've got Ken Walker. And then the final man out of the tunnel is Sam freaking Hoofnagel.
Oh, you got to do it like the announcer, like as he's coming out of the tunnel. And at QB, Sam Hoofnagel. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. It's inspired me to do our $12 and above shout outs in football style as well, where we have our $12 members. Look, if you want to announce your own name and your school, that's what you can do as a member of the flock at 12 and above. Yeah. And those are the people who get called out first. You just got to send me a sound clip to GoHawks@SeahawkersPodcast.com. And every single time we're kicking things off with our own Flocktimus Prime. Let's get to it, Adam.
Keith Kedover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
Hello, this is Hock Van Dyke from London, the 2024 champion of the Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League.
Lisa in Seattle.
Samuel Gelber, NoHo, California.
David Van Cleve, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Leo Jesse, Luleå, Sweden, from Luleå Eskimos and Vancouver, France.
Aaron Fisher, coming in from Henderson, Nevada. Go Hawks!
Chris Boucher, a.k.a. the biggest little flocker, South Central Louisiana State University. Go Mud Dogs.
Hey, it's JC Schilling, back from Germany, living on beautiful Whidbey Island now with Quinn and Hudson. Go Hawks!
Hey, Seahawkers. My name is Garen Taylor. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, North Idaho. Hashtag on the Rose. Go Hawks.
You heard from executive producers DCH and JC Schilling. The big thanks to executive producer Ryan Peterson. And continuing down the list of $12 supporters and above, starting with Rebecca in Manhattan Beach, California, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Craig in Camas, Jeremiah in the Bronx, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, Kevin in Great Glen, England, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Brandon in Huntersville, North Carolina, Kevin in Surrey, BC, JC in Horsford, England, Jake in Seattle, James in Beaux Arts, Pepper in Greer, South Carolina, Jay in Linwood, Hector in Monroe, Brian in Omak, Brian in Berlin, Connecticut, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Jeffrey in Kansas City, John in New York, Patrick in Sacramento, Bryson in Eltopia, Jeremy in Federal Way, Ken in Hutto, Texas, Glenn in Ocoee, Florida, Mario in Seattle, Paul in Portland, Daniel C. in the Greater Hockdom, Norma in the Greater Hockdom, Jeff in Bainbridge Island, Cora in Dittersdeutschland, Anders in Vila, Denmark, JC in the Greater Hockdom, Warren in Dundee, Oregon, Chris in Austin, Amy in Sequim, Richard in Killeen, Texas, Joseph in Vancouver, Joshua in the Greater Hockdom, Rafe in Beaverton, Oregon, Ryan in Salt Lake City, Jamie in Oswestry, England, Eugene in Henderson, Nevada, Marlon in the Greater Hockdom, Jason in Panama City, Florida, DJ in Menifee, California, BB in the Greater Hockdom, Alexander in Oranienburg, Deutschland, Mark in Bexley Heath, England, Kayla in Vancouver, Gordon in Valdez, Alaska, Jeff in Gilbert, Arizona, Ovary Smasher 69 in Phoenix, Sean in Cascade, Iowa via Kalispell, Montana, Oliver in Fort St. John, BC, Ian in Seattle, Greg in Lake City, Colorado, B-Walls 22 in New York, Russell in Harpenden, England, Sam in Alamonte Springs, Florida, Nathan in Fife, Chris in Manchester, England, Charles in Bremerton, Mike in Kelowna, BC, Ranger Luke in DuPont, Ken in Stanwood, Stu in Navarre, Florida, Corey in Robertson, Australia, Marty in Melbourne, Australia, Nate in Solna, Sweden, RJ in Bucyrus, Kansas, The Poetrist in Boise, Martin in Ferrum, Denmark, Jeremiah in the Greater Hockdom, Root in the Greater Hockdom, and Jack in San Diego. There it is, our list of $12 supporters and above, and oh man, it's a fun list to go through each and every time.
Heroes, each and every one of them, big time.
I can't get it out of my mind. I want that week one announcement.
You need a Hoofnagel at QB?
I do. I didn't know it before the show.
Yeah.
Now I know. This is what I need in my life. And we might need a lobby Katie to make this happen.
We might. Look, one of my family's good family's friends, like whole family we're friends with, the Nagels. They're just the best crew, like crazy, fun, love the Nagels. I didn't know it could get better than the Nagels. And it does with the Hoofnagels. Like, that's what we need.
Well, we've got at least 2 more months of the offseason. Like, if he's not out there in training camp, we just need to know. We need to badger him a little bit more, and we can make this happen. This is the goal. This is the new goal of the offseason. I just realized.
You know what? Does anybody have Drew Lock's number? Like, because this feels like this fits into Drew's wheelhouse, too. He needs to go and grab Darnold's jersey, before training camp practice, and put the tape over it like they do, and write in Hoofnagel.
Just so he starts to get the message. This is happening.
Mm-hmm. I think everybody would have a lot of fun with it. Drew's mischievous. I think that fits. Let's go, Drew. Let Drew brew.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.